Hey everybody, this is Laith Marouf from Free Palestine TV. Where with us is Dan Kovalik and Hadi Hotait. We are heading to the south of Lebanon. We're right now at the outskirts of Nabateeh city, and we're going to try to reach Al-Khiyam prison right on the border with occupied Golan Heights and North Palestine. This is Dan's first visit to the south of Lebanon, so we're hoping to show him as much as we can, and we get his impressions about the situation in the south and the crimes committed by the Israelis over the last 2 months of occupation in the region. Dan, welcome to South Lebanon.
Thank you. It's great to be here, actually. I'm so excited to be here. As you said, I've never been here before. I've always wanted to come. It's obviously a very historic place. History's being made here, every day. The one thing that honestly always surprises me in traveling through Lebanon or traveling through Palestine, which I did last year, is these are not big places. You get from one city to another very quickly. I'm so surprised how close the Golan is to Beirut, for example. I mean, or how close Beirut is to the Syrian border. It's nothing is very far here. And that, I think people don't have a sense of that back in the West.
Oh yeah, I mean the maps make it look like it's much further from each other. But if there was a straight road with no borders between Lebanon and Palestine, we can get from Beirut to Haifa within an hour and a half.
So this is exactly, honestly, in my mind's eye, what South Lebanon would look like. And it's incredibly mountainous and rocky, which honestly is great for the residents here of South Lebanon because it makes a ground offensive by the Israeli forces difficult to impossible. I mean, especially with tanks. I mean, there's no way they could navigate these mountains. These mountains were made for guerrillas, right? And so that's perfect for Hezbollah. Honestly, you know what it reminds me of? Being in Latin America. That's where I got my start in anti-imperialist work. And that's what the guerrillas would do. They'd, hide out in the mountains there. And this reminds me of that. And made it very, difficult for the government forces or U.S. forces to get to the guerrillas. So I see a lot of crossover there.
حلفتك خبرني كيف حال الزيتون والصبي بفي الطاحون حلفتك خبرني كيف حال الزيتون والصبي بفي الطاحون خبرني حلفتك خبرني 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 كيف حال الزيتون والصبي بفي الطاحون خبرني.
So we are inside Al-Khiyam town. We did go through the major part of the town and saw the destruction. And we're right now beside the church that the Israelis occupied this church during the period when they entered. And they actually decided to go into this church, the soldiers drunk and high on drugs seemingly, and decided to film themselves desecrating the icons inside the church and enacting this stupid gay wedding while making fun of Mary as a virgin. So clearly the enemy of humanity, the Zionists, do not differentiate between Christians and Muslims when they are wanting to desecrate holy sites. They see everybody as an enemy of their existence.
Yeah, well, they've destroyed some ancient churches both in Gaza and in South Lebanon.
You think we should go in?
From here, definitely.
Yeah. There's also a few shrines here in the south, close to us here, that also were desecrated by the Israelis. But
And again, this wasn't just an errant shelling. As you said, they actually entered the church with malintent to desecrate it.
Door is closed.
yeah, the doors are closed, but you could see the damage.
How old do you think this church is?
I mean, this is a historical church. Obviously, it's been built over again and again.
You know, I was talking to a friend the other day. He's actually the South African ambassador to Lebanon and Syria. And he opined, and I agreed with him, that the West really wants to depopulate West Asia of Christians. They don't like the Western peoples to understand that there are Christian Arabs, because the Westerners would have a kind of instinctual sympathy for them.
So this is one of the locations that they are looking for the remains of martyrs under. We saw a couple of locations as we were driving. We didn't film them because we don't want people's faces in the where people are digging for the remains of their loved ones.
They think the current count is something like 3,500 people killed during the recent Israeli invasion, but it could be a lot more than that.
It could be a lot more, and obviously anybody who's still under the rubble, they're not counting.
Right.
But over the last few days, the villages that got liberated by the civilians that pushed out the Israelis, some of them have already pulled out at least 12 bodies from the martyrs of Hezbollah, the fighters. It's another church that the Israelis attacked. I think maybe we can.
We can probably get in there, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
See the cloth for the priests
Oh, yeah.
and the icons.
Oh, my God, this is where the Eucharist would be.
Yes.
And they came in and they took it. This is where, you know, in the Catholic faith, which is my faith, the Eucharist would be considered the body and blood of Christ. And this is the most important thing in the church. And they clearly opened it and took it out. That's pretty horrifying, actually.
I mean, you were also in Ma'lula in Syria just...
I just left, yeah, I
there.
just was there a few days ago.
And this is exactly the same kind of desecration that the Wahhabi death squads are committing in Syria and were committing in Iraq and Syria for a decade, they learned from their masters, the Zionists, this kind of behavior.
And what really, Laith, what really changed my mind about a lot of things happening in West Asia is the first time I went to Malula, when I learned that the terrorists that terrorized Malula, which we should tell the audience is one of the last cities in the world that speaks Aramaic, the language of Jesus. The terrorists who did that were backed by the US and the West. And the people who drove them out and protected the Christians there were, in addition to the Syrian army, Hezbollah.
Look at this. So this is Musa al-Sadr, the kind of the spiritual leader of Shia revival in Lebanon in the 80s, who both Amal Party and Hezbollah see as their godfather. And as you see, this is a picture of him with the priests in the region. And it says the Islamic Christian coexistence is a revolution that we must hold on to. And this is a quote from him, Imam Sayyid Musa al-Sadr. And Musa al-Sadr was kidnapped and disappeared by Muammar al-Gaddafi in Libya. And they still haven't found his remains. But one of the reasons that there was a kind of a rivalry between the Shia parties here and Muammar Gaddafi was because of his purposeful kidnapping of Musa Sadr when he was visiting Libya. So although Muammar Gaddafi had a fight with the Americans and supported the Irish rebellion,
and the PLO
and the PLO and so on, there was a attempt, there was a rivalry between Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi, and President Assad, Hafez al-Assad of Syria, over who has more influence over the armed resistance in Lebanon. And at that time, Muammar Gaddafi and Libya were being accused by the Americans of the Lockerbie hijacking, the plane, the explosion. And in order to lift some of the American pressure over him, Muammar Gaddafi disappeared Musa Sadr during a visit to Libya. And this disappearance of al-Sadr was supposed to help the Americans weaken the Shia. And in fact, his disappearance actually triggered the rise of the militarized Islamic movement here in Lebanon in the form of Hezbollah. Yeah, so as we see right there is the medical center for the Islamic Health Association. And they've attacked it, obviously. They've been attacking everywhere, wherever they can find these centers. There's many, in fact, medical workers, first aid, and paramedics and doctors that died in the south of Lebanon in deliberate attacks on the centers.
I was in Baalbek a few weeks ago, and there as well, they destroyed the regional first responders center and killed, I think it was like 14 first responders who had just come back from another shelling site where they were helping people. They came back and Israel shelled it, and nothing else was destroyed around it. Like clearly they were targeting that. And of course in Gaza, we know hundreds of medical personnel have been killed by Israel. A number of doctors have been kidnapped and tortured and raped. And again, every hospital in Gaza destroyed. I mean, so this is obviously, this is a major war crime, going back to really the 1850s and the first Geneva Conventions, attacking those sorts of civilian sites is a violation of international humanitarian law. And again, Israel doesn't do it merely by accident. They do it intentionally.
Another a bullet fired. Look, there's a host of them right there. Yeah, we can see all these bullet shells all around here, and clearly there was a back and forth battle between the resistance here and whatever Israeli tank or platoon that came through this alley. It seems like they pushed this truck off the road with a tank or a bulldozer, but they also took down this tree, those trees right there. Yeah, we can see the tank tracks right here on the ground.
And of course the road, it looks like they just totally destroyed the road, which looked like it was probably made of this brick here. And now, of course, it's just dirt. I mean, there's nothing left of this road. This looks like a good one. You know, my favorite film in the world is The Godfather, and if you've seen The Godfather, you know that orange is a symbol of death. In fact, when the Godfather gets shot in the first one, he's carrying a bag of oranges that spill out onto the ground.
This Clementine didn't get a lot of water because of the war.
It's a little sour.
Sour and small. It's pretty hungry.
This is the mosque, guys.
Yeah.
The mosque.
Yeah, so this is the mosque. Look at how they blew it up from the inside, clearly.
Wow.
You remember Laith? We went here.
Yep.
Prayed.
Yep.
Wow. That's incredible.
Bring it.
And this is the main mosque in Al-Khiyam. And it's very obvious, looking at all the debris, that this was blown up from the inside. It wasn't like shelled from the outside. They deliberately went in, put in charges, and blew up the walls. It's 3 floors. The mosque had probably a seminary also for teaching religious.
Yeah, well, you could see there was definitely lodging. You know, people lived there. Probably there were little schools in there as well. Well, and again, what we see over and over is that the Israelis intentionally target houses of worship. Christian, Muslim, it doesn't matter, right? And a number of Israeli officials have said that in order to win the wars, they see it against the people of the Levant, they believe they have to destroy their history and their historical places, their houses of worship, and that's what they're doing. Of course, these are war crimes under the Hague Convention of 1907, the Geneva Conventions, which actually require warring parties to go out of their way to protect civilian sites like this. And the Israelis, far from doing that, are actually intentionally targeting them. As you say, actually going in, mining these, or blowing them up from within. They did the same thing in Gaza. Particularly, there was one big university that they mined and blew up. Again, a giant war crime.
You see that right there also is the school for the village and the water tower. And again, they're both deliberately blown up to make people's life, if they decide to return, hard to manage.
Right, and I think really the goal is to keep people from returning, right? To make it unlivable so they won't return. And it should be noted that there's no evidence Hezbollah ever houses themselves in these places of worship. And in fact, the Israelis have never even claimed that, right? That isn't the idea. That The idea is to destroy civilian infrastructure, as you say, really to deter people from ever returning here. And the Israelis ultimately intend to be here themselves, right? To create greater Israel. That's what a lot of this is about.
We're going to go now to Al-Khiyam prison. It was very famous from the Liberation Day in 2000 when the civilians walked into the prison and released all the hostages, basically, that the Israelis and the collaborators kept there. The Israelis were so mad that it became a museum that in 2006, during the war, they intentionally bombed the whole prison so people don't come back and visit it as a historical site. As you're saying, they don't like us to keep our history here and commemorate our roots.
And also it was a museum to their crimes, which they also didn't appreciate. And not surprisingly, it was originally built by the French in the 1930s, who themselves have a long history of torturing people in northern Africa and West Asia. If you ever saw the Battle of Algiers, for example, you'll see that.
The Merkava tanks. Yes.
So look at this house here. They have a banner for one of their family members, martyr Mustafa Ali Awada, a martyr on the road to Jerusalem, it says. And the family, if Hadi can show us, are back here every day since the pushback of the Israelis over the last week. And they're here enjoying their life, having coffee and tea and smoking shisha argili every day, just to make sure everybody understands that this is their homeland. They're going to come back to it and they will not be removed from their homes by the Israelis. يعطيكم العافية.
How are you?
Assalamu alaikum.
احنا بنقدم يعني تعازينا على الشهداء والله يقويكم. خبرونا انتوا امتى رجعتوا لهون؟
نحن اول يوم قالوا وقف اطلاق النار دغري اول يوم كنا هون. We come every day after the 60 day. We come here every day.
Wow.
And we sit here as you can see nargila and coffee. Yeah.
It's quite beautiful. It's very inspiring to see that.
Thank you.
Look at this table out of the rubble.
It's great. No, it's amazing. You know, it makes you realize, you know, what you have. And when you have your home, you have your health. And I'm very inspired by your struggle. I'm an American, by the way, but my heart is with you. I'm on your side against my own government, which is doing this to you. So I applaud what you're doing and appreciate it.
How hard is it to get food, water, electricity now in the Khiam?
It will take some time, but we are staying here. Whatever happens, we will put tents and sleep here. And as you can see, the houses here, each house will be rebuilt into 2 houses. So we are staying here, and as you can see, every day we will come here and sit. And as you can see, we have picnic here.
Yes. May God give you all the strength.
Thank you.
And the courage.
Yeah, even after all the struggle, we are staying here. Whatever they do to us, we are staying here.
This is what the Israelis hate. this is what they try to break in us, is to break the will, not only break our houses there, they want to break the will, and it seems like, of course, the Lebanese people of the south, their will is unbroken, inshallah.
Well, I mean, I agree. Your smiles are the resistance, right? Your smiles mock the Israelis and makes me smile. So, as Laith said, we wish you peace and prosperity and your homeland, inshallah. And thank you, because I do think you are fighting for all of humanity. I do believe that you are on the side of humanity, of civilization. You know, Netanyahu talks about how it's a fight of light against, yes. Well, but he's right in a sense. He says it's a fight of light against dark, but you are the light.
Thank you.
You are the light.
Thank you very much. Even after all the destruction,
yes,
and the sadness that have come to our place, but we are still staying here.
Yes.
Forever. Yeah, do you want to try?
I do. I do.
Some cold.
Thank you.
But now he can go back to Pittsburgh and say he smoked an argile in Khiam.
Yes. No, I'm very happy.
This land is free for you to come every year.
Thank
And
you.
check up on us.
Shukran. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
It's better.
Is this better? Okay. Here, you can have that one.
No, I don't.
شو هذه كانت تنبك يعني؟ ولا لا؟
That is very nice.
No, someone
Very
knows how
smooth.
to do it, someone knows less.
Double apple. Yeah, that's my favorite. Yes, I love the double apple.
Yeah, the ladies think that they know how to pack the head better than their brother here.
It's very smooth, I must say. This is a very smooth one. Shukran. Well, just that, you know, people in the West especially, they need to see these are the people who are being hurt by our bombs, by Western bombs, by US bombs. These are good people, these are kind people, and they're the best of humanity, and we owe them to fight against our own militaries, our own governments, to stop this genocide against the people of Palestine and Lebanon, and now Syria. So, and I thank you all for having us here, really.
Thank you too.
Great honor, great honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
احكيلي عن بلدي احكيلي يا نسيم اللي مارق عالشجر مقابلي عن أهلي حكاية عن بيتي حكاية عن جار الطفولة حكاية طويلة احكيلي احكيلي يا نسيم اللي مارق عأرض الغار حلفتك تجي تلعب عندي بهالدار يا نسيم اللي مارق عأرض الغار حلفتك تجي تلعب عندي بهالدار خبرني إن كان بعده بيذكرني ببلدي وعالسهرة نطرني خبرني إن كان بعده بيذكرني ببلدي عالسهرة نطرني ساعات
This is the historic Khiam torture camp, prison, that the Israelis and their collaborationist, the Lahad army, used to hold resistance fighters and anyone they didn't like in and torture to death. It was very famous from the images in the year 2000 when the liberation happened and the Israelis withdrew and their collaborators just ran away and left all the prisoners inside locked in. And so it's very famous images, everybody remembers them here in Lebanon, of the residents of Khiam and nearby villages all rushing in and breaking the locks on the doors with rocks and so on to free people, women, men, children that were held there. These images are never going to be forgotten here in Lebanon. And as you see, they've attacked it, the Zionists, while they're here, but they also attacked it in 2006 because it was turned into a museum in the year 2000. The Israelis were not happy that people are coming and remembering their crimes. But we can go in and see what is still standing. Last time I came here was around 4 years ago. There was a few of the torture chambers still standing. I don't know if they left any of them, my lord.
Yeah, I was reading that one of the things they did, they electrocuted people, and in particular would electrocute their genitals, which, by the way, was a CIA tactic as well.
Do you know where it started this electrocution of genitals?
No.
This is something that probably our American and Canadian viewers, some of them don't even know this. The first use of electricity as a torture method on genitals was against Indigenous children in Canada, held in the residential schools of the church schools. Anytime they spoke their own language after being kidnapped from their family, they would be put in a chair and electrocuted on their genitals.
That's incredible. I didn't know that. And the CIA really perfected that technique and trained their agents throughout the developing world, through the global south, to use that technique on political captives.
Before we go in, this is the Golan Heights, the Mount Hermon on the left, and the village that we see is Shaba village, and the occupied part beside it is the Shaba farms that are still occupied.
Okay.
Of course, Israel's saying they won't give up. They're never going to give up that mountain without a fight. And I guess they're taking about 30 to 40% of the water from that area, from Syria.
Yeah. Okay, let's go in. Yeah. There's a water reserve and a pump, and clearly the Israelis decided to destroy it. It's a cannon from the 1970s, it seems like.
I saw that the group they really targeted to imprison here and to torture were members of the Lebanese Communist Party.
Yes, there was a graffiti on the outside of one of the leaders of the Communist Party. Here is the rooms of the guards, the collaborationist Lahad military force. And we can see here on the wall a list of the actual collaborators. They put the names of the torturers and the ones that did the questioning of people when they were captured. So now we know they want to make sure that everybody knows the names of the collaborators, that we will not forget them, and if they are ever seen, they will be captured. There was one of those who worked with the Lahad army a few years ago. He has an American passport, and he was able to enter Lebanon. And then the Lebanese military and security forces arrested him, but the American embassy got so mad and threatened Lebanon, and then they handed him over to the American embassy in Beirut, and an Osprey, jet that can land up and down, landed inside the embassy to make him escape, and they flew him out to Cyprus this way. This is how much a traitor is worth to the Americans in Lebanon.
Yes, quite a bit. Yeah. And of course, the Americans are building the second biggest embassy in the world in Beirut now.
Yep.
Yes.
That's an American-made bomb that was thrown on Lebanon, obviously before the liberation of 2000. And this is one of the mechanized, machineries that the collaborators used against the people of South Lebanon.
Is there much left of the Communist Party, Lebanese Communist Party?
Unfortunately, they have become an NGO. A lot of martyrs that were given by the Communist Party during the occupation, and they had honorable history, but the current leaders of the Communist Party in Lebanon have decided to make it into a business. Mm-hmm. And since there's no more Soviet money, there's no more money from any socialist country, their only source of funding is NGO. These were the rooms where the torture would happen. And some of this side of was still standing before this war. I came here, as I told you, 4 years ago, and I brought my kids and showed them the torture chambers. We can go into this one that's still standing. Come, Hadi, come.
This is the famous part where the people were running and freeing people.
Yeah. This is where the video, very famous video in 2000, the civilians were breaking the doors with rocks. The torture chambers, we can go in if you want. There would be dozens of people just sleeping on the floor here. This is the toilet. Some beds maybe were being held here. This is, you see the locks are still on this one.
Yeah.
Oof.
Let's go and see what's happening.
Yeah, that was a bomb.
Oh.
Shoo. Oh, here it is. Come see.
Oh, yeah.
Behind
Yeah.
the tree.
Yeah, I see that. Do you know what area that is?
Kafarkala.
Demolition.
So where do the tanks come from when they come?
They didn't go from the valley up. They
Yeah,
can't.
that would be difficult.
So they would come from, they would follow the top of as we came in with the roads.
Again, it's so beautiful. It should be an amazing place to live, and it's been destroyed.
Palestine, the Hula Valley, the Golan Heights, and the highest peak there is Mount Hermon, or Jabal al-Sheikh in Arabic.
Wow. Do you see those kind of holes down there in the material? What do you think that is?
These are underground torture chambers that the Lahad military collaborators with the Israelis would put people that they really don't like under there, people that are refusing to give information on their fellow citizens and or the resistance. It's many people died inside this Khiam torture prison.
Wow.
A new explosion just happened. We heard one before. Let's check if we can see this one. Oh yes, we can see the smoke in the valley.
Oh yeah.
These are in the foothills of the Kafarkilla village. Clearly there's 2 smoke sites. And we can hear the drone. Can you hear it?
Yes, I can hear that. So they must still be demolishing homes now and occupying over there.
Yep, they don't want people to go back to Kafarkilla because you see how it's right under an Israeli outpost?
Oh yes.
There's 2 of them. What a beautiful sight with the sun.
It's incredible.
The only thing that's ruining this site is the presence of Israelis.
Yes.
They've ruined the whole region. 100 years, this region is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Nobody would immigrate from here if the goddamn Israelis were not here.
Yeah, they've destroyed in 100 years what took thousands of years to build.
So they are insisting on destroying the villages like Kafarkala and Adaisi down there because they don't want the Lebanese civilians to go back, because their own colonists haven't returned to the colonies in North Palestine, and they don't want them to feel like they've been defeated.
Yes, and destroying those types of civilian villages and infrastructure and engaged in herbicide destroying crops and farmland and olive trees, all those things are war crimes. The Israelis, under very well established international humanitarian law, have an obligation to try to avoid hitting civilian targets and civilian buildings, and yet they're going out of their way to do that. And by the way, you know, obviously the Lebanese have a right of self-defense. This is their land. I mean, that has to be pointed out. I mean, the Israelis have no right to be here. The Lebanese have every right to be here, and even to drive them out. But what's going to happen is what has happened in historic Palestine. The Israelis will take this land over, and then they're going to claim they have a right to self-defense to defend that land that they've stolen, right? And so the cycle continues on and on. And the UN, we've seen, you know, I saw UN vehicles this morning. The UN's doing nothing to keep Israel from doing this, from gaining land, from destroying civilian infrastructure. The world just is looking away at all this.
And when we say the world, we mean the powers. Of course, humanity itself has been watching and shocked at the behavior of the Zionists. If it's up to the civilians, even in the United States, as the surveys have shown, they would have stopped any military aid to Israel. The vast majority of Americans in surveys said they want the end of military aid to the Zionist colony, but the politicians don't represent the will of their people, neither in the US or the UK or Canada or any other place. Unfortunately for those peoples, they don't have any true democracy.
No, in fact, a recent poll showed that 29% of Democrats who voted for Biden in 2020 but did not vote for Harris in 2024, either because they didn't vote at all, or they voted third party, or maybe they voted for Trump. They did so because of Gaza, because of the war, Israeli war on Gaza, because they were so appalled by it. And the Democrats knew that this was a likely outcome, and they were willing to lose the election in order to keep the genocide going. I mean, that is the incredible thing. They were really willing to sacrifice state power and all that goes with it in return for keeping this genocide going. And that is an amazing fact.
I think it's in Adaisi, or Hula or Adaisi.
This is the third explosion we heard since we arrived. Can you see where it is, Hadi?
Yeah, it's obvious from here. But it's on the other side of the mountain.
So that was a pretty packed day. What's your impression of the visit here to the south?
Well, honestly, I feel pretty heavy. It's the same impression I feel in Beirut and the same impression I got when I went to the West Bank, that these places should be paradises. This is the most beautiful countryside you can ever imagine. You have mountains, you have greenery, you have snow caps. And honestly, the homes, what's left of them, are much more beautiful than I had expected. You know, they're just so ornate and made of stone. And then you see that most of it's rubble now. I mean, it's hard not to feel a lot of despair. This should be a very hospitable place.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Khiam prison, where the week of the commemoration of the Auschwitz liberation, this was liberated by the people, including communist Lebanese that fought the occupation, is now destroyed. Imagine if somebody goes and blows up now Auschwitz camp and,
Right.
and the museum there. This is what would the Zionists and the Israelis think if we blew up Auschwitz? This was our Auschwitz here in the south of Lebanon, the Khiam prison, and nothing left of it, as we showed people. And as you're talking about the beauty of this land, we have the now occupied Golan Heights there, occupied again, more parts of them. We can see even the new base that the Israelis are building. You see that light on the top?
Yes.
So thank you very much for coming to the South, for being a witness to the war crimes. We hope you can bring back more of this information to people in the United States as you go back to Pittsburgh. Everybody can follow Dan on his Twitter account and on his YouTube page at Dan Kovalik on Twitter. And please visit us on our website, freepalestine.video. Donate, subscribe for a monthly donation, whatever you can, and follow us on all our social media. Until we see you next time, we bid you all a free Palestine.